What is the carbon footprint and why measure it? Well, many organisations want to understand their climate change impacts, and to do this, the starting point is to calculate a carbon footprint. Carbon footprint measures the total greenhouse gas emissions caused directly and indirectly by an organisation, helps you understand what your key emission sources are, and most importantly, what opportunities you have to reduce them. In addition, organisations are increasingly being asked to meet mandatory reporting requirements and publicly disclose their carbon footprints. So how do I calculate my carbon footprint? Well, it's important to use a consistent and robust approach to measuring your carbon emissions. And the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, which is the world's most widely used standard, provides a framework. The first step is to define the carbon footprint boundaries. This is about setting clear, explicit boundaries on which parts of your organisation are included in the footprint. The emission sources to be included should also be considered. The protocol splits these into three types, scopes 1, 2, and 3, which relate to direct emission sources from activities within your control, such as fuel used in company vehicles, through to indirect emission sources from outside your direct control, such as purchased goods. The next step is to collect the data, which I'll talk about in just a bit. You then convert the data collected into tons of CO2 equivalent, which is the standard unit of measurement for carbon footprints. You do this by applying carbon emission factors, which are produced annually by the UK government. Measuring your carbon footprint is really just a starting point. It's by understanding your emissions that you can start to make plans to reduce them and to commit to a decarbonised future. So how do I collect the data? The accuracy of the footprint relies on collating data, consumption, quantity, or spend data for all the emission sources within your boundary. For example, you can collect electricity consumption data in kilowatt hours from meter readings or from bills. For scope 3 categories, it's likely that a hybrid between organisational spend, e.g. the amount spent on purchased goods, and or working with suppliers to obtain a more accurate data source, e.g. the product carbon footprint of actual products that you purchase. You can consider ways to extrapolate data where a full data set is not available, and so it's important to clarify any gaps in the data and list any assumptions that you've made in your calculations. Keep a record of all this for future reference and for when calculating any future carbon footprints. Always look for ways to capture data previously excluded and also improve the accuracy of data that you do capture. So how has the space sector in Scotland been involved? A recent programme of work was carried out under the UK Space Agency Space Cluster Development with the aim to help develop a sustainable Scottish space sector. The aims of the programme were to provide organisations with resources, knowledge and expertise to measure, manage and reduce their footprints, and to gauge the approximate carbon footprint of the Scottish space sector for the first time. The programme was promoted across organisations and a total of 8 volunteered to be involved. The approach mentioned previously was followed and a bespoke tool developed to support organisations with the data collection stage. Aligning with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol and the European Space Agency Phase 1 organisational boundary, carbon footprints were then calculated. Individual carbon audit reports were then produced detailing the work carried out, results obtained, and the next steps for each organisation. So what are the key takeaways from others in the space sector who are doing this? Well, the whole process needed to be straightforward and not too onerous for the organisations. Therefore, a lot of time was spent working with the space sector to develop a data collection tool that was easy to use and fit for purpose. Organisations found they didn't need a lot of resources to capture the carbon emission data required. Completing the tool was also straightforward after a short training session. The key results were that the programme has helped identify the most significant areas which contribute to carbon footprints and therefore help set priorities for reductions. It also helped identify what further data needs to be collected, particularly from suppliers, and where the accuracy of data gathering could be improved. The programme really has been a launchpad, but shown that we are at a starting point. With more effort, the climate change impacts of the space sector in Scotland could be measured, understood and reduced. Thank you.